Hello, hello. Today is April the 26th, 2026, and it's a very exciting day. Why? Because I'm getting ready to head out to go into London to see Pentatonix as part of their European tour. Super excited for it. This will be my first time seeing them live. Today is actually the same day of the London Marathon, so travel in and out could be very busy. I don't know, maybe most runners would have finished by now. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't know which songs they'll be singing. I have not really looked into it, to be honest. I've been very, very busy, and I kind of want an element of surprise. Maybe they'll give us programs when we're there. Who knows? But yeah, very much looking forward to it. Should be super, super cool. Very excited for this one.
Vauxhall.
That is the stadium in there, and it looks like loads of food places and stuff around the outside. Interesting. Right, about to go in. Just found our section 102. Yeah, that was not the right section. The guy working there sent us in the other side of the arena. We were actually sat all the way on the other end.
Break it, fix it, trash it, change it, charge it, point it, zoom it, press it, snap it, work it, quick erase it, write it, cut it, paste it, save it, load it, check it, quick rewrite it, plug it, play it, burn it, rip it, drag it, drop it, zip unzip it, lock it, fill it, call it, find it, view it, code it, jam it, lock it, surface, roll it, pause it, click it, cross it, crack it, switch your page, name it, wait it, tune it, print it, scan it, send it, box, rename it, touch it, bring it, pay it, watch it, technologic, one more time.
What a way to start their show, Daft Punk medley. That was super, super exciting. Really cool to see them kind of go back to their roots. It did make me wonder what was to come for the rest of the show. How much more of the modern music would there be? Maybe instrumental music rather than pure a cappella. But they started out with that. The crowd loved it. What I'm going to do now for the video is just show you clips. I took a little clip from, I'm pretty sure, every performance. Maybe I missed one. There was one actually where the audio just didn't work. I'm there just filming on my phone. I wasn't there to like make a professional video. I'm there to experience Pentatonix live. So apologies if the quality isn't great. Also, when I'm filming, I don't like to be one of those people who holds up my phone and block it for the people behind. So I'm kind of filming with my phone like in front of my face, and yeah, you'll see a lot of people's heads in the way, I'm sure. But the rest of the video, I'll just show the clips, maybe 2 or 3 songs at a time, and then just give a little description of what I think they were. And then at the end of this video, I'll just give some very brief thoughts on my overall experience. So we had the Daft Punk medley, and then they moved into what I can only assume is the 90s dance medley. You can hear me say, oh, that's really cool, when one of the songs started at the arrangement. And then that led into Imogen Heap, as we saw. That was a very fun one. I did that for Halloween recently, so things were getting a little bit spooky. That then led into one that I was kind of planning on doing as one of my next Pentatonix videos, a song that I really love, Creep. You know, things always seem much better when you're there live, especially than when you watch back a recording. On the recording, they never seem quite so good. But this arrangement of Creep, I really, really, really liked. It may have even been my favorite song of the whole concert.
I wish I was special, but I'm creepy.
That video does not do the huge mass of sound justice. I've said before, like when I went to see Avi live and Dimash and anyone really, it's just, yeah, these phone recordings cannot accurately depict just the physical sensation that you get when there's this huge wall of sound. That's a term I've seen commented on a lot of my Pentatonix videos. Yeah, you can really just feel the wall of sound. Unfortunately, it doesn't really come across in these little videos. Anyway, after that was another fantastic one, also one of my favorites from the show, and one that I was really surprised they did because, well, it's not a Christmas song, but for Pentatonix, it is.
See, I'm gonna start on the same note as them and octave up. 2, 3, 4. That was it.
And that's a little bit different to usual, a bit of crowd participation. Scott did a little speech, essentially honouring the Beatles. So we did a little Hey Jude 4-part harmony. Each section of the arena had their own line. I was not singing in those clips, just to not ruin the video, but I definitely was singing off camera for the rest of it. Then we went into a Mitch solo, and one thing I really liked is that every single member had their moment. They had a solo song. Kevin and Matt did one together, which we'll see later on. The solos tended to be a bit more dramatic, especially from Mitch and Kirsty.
If it's not an illusion now, if Kaba's taken,
Again, the power, especially in Matt and Kevin's little bit, yeah, you just can't really hear it in the camera. As you saw, the solos that they chose to do, Mitch and Kirsty, much more mellow, somber. Kirsty's choice of song I did think was interesting, and personally I'm not sure how well it kind of fitted with everything else. There was a lot of energy either side of it all. It is a contrast, I do understand. I'd be curious to know if any of you have seen Pentatonix live any other times and she's done solo, what sort of song she's chosen to do. Anyway, whilst Kevin was out on the stage with his cello, they decided to do another older one.
temptation.
And then, as we saw, they moved into a medley of very classic songs, think 50s, 60s. That was really, really nice. Then they moved into more modern music. The song that we just heard there with the red background, that was, well, it's a new song. And then they moved into a Pentatonix original that I had never heard before.
Majestically, you came to save me. I'm tired of knowing nothing deep. The most important gift that you gave me is heaven on earth. Never thought you'd be down here.
That was definitely a different flavor to most of the Pentatonix I've done on my channel. I do understand that Pentatonix are changing with time. Naturally, I think you have to, don't you? Well, you don't have to, but artists in any sort of facet of art, yeah, they're all about expressing themselves, and things do change with time. As you heard, it had instrumental accompaniment, and then Scott had his solo as well, which was very much a similar thing. Scott was going around in the audience, everyone had their arms out for high fives, which was really, really cool to see. And then they went back to a very classic song.
Vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence.
In restless dreams, I've walked alone.
To a modern song that, who knows, maybe will be a classic in the future due to its popularity. We've seen it a few times on the channel now, of course, Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters, and then back to another classic song. So they're getting a good mix here.
Well, baby, I've been here before. I see this room and I've walked this floor. I used to live alone before I knew you.
And from her lips she drew it out.
Everyone had their phone lights out there, moving them like that in the air. So the next song that came after this, I felt like I knew it. I really did. I thought it was maybe Robbie Williams just because of the structure, the melody, the harmonies, how they work. It was very Robbie Williams-esque. Only afterwards, when I was editing this video, did I remember about this song. So I Googled the lyrics, and it's one of Pentatonix originals, Sing, which I've not yet seen.
Open your eyes, look up to the skies and see. I'm just a poor boy. Life had just begun, but now God has thrown it all away.
And they finished, of course, with Bohemian Rhapsody Needs absolutely no introduction. So as you can see, quite a varied show indeed. They got a lot in there. Good how everyone had their solo moment. A good mix of old and new. I was definitely a little bit apprehensive that they would not perform any or much of the older stuff, purely on the basis that a lot of their new music, as I've read in the comments on my recent videos, you know, they're trying to do new things. They're kind of evolving as a group, moving away from pure a cappella, introducing instrumental music, instrumental accompaniment. So I personally was happy to see that they did include some of the older arrangements, White Winter Hymnal, Daft Punk medley. I really do love the older a cappella things. If you go back through my ratings videos and you see my Pentatonix ratings, I think the highest rated ones I've given are the older ones, Carol of the Bells, Imagine, Daft Punk medley, Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy, Bohemian Rhapsody. And also, I'm just not that familiar with Pentatonix's newer stuff just yet, because when I started reacting to them, I started with one of their performances from the sing-off video, Killed the Radio Star, and I kind of made it a bit of a thing that I would be roughly going chronologically. I started with the Avi era, and now I'm kind of doing a mix of the Avi and Matt eras. So that was nice to see. I think they understand that a lot of their fans, especially their older fans, would want to see some of the older things, but it's good that they can get in their new things as well, and they have that artistic freedom, especially when it comes to the solos that they do. And just before we wrap up, I know that some of you will be wondering my thoughts on how it sounds live versus studio brushed up videos that we often see on the channel. I think it's no secret that in my videos, when I have watched Pentatonix live performances, often I'll do a live performance on Patreon and the kind of main performance on YouTube. I always do try to point out when we're hearing things that are not live, even though it might seem it. Additional voices in the background, for example. It's been a bit of a thing where I've just received kind of nasty comments from people saying, oh no, everything is purely live, purely 5 voices. Far fewer of them these days. And there were some comments that would always kind of use the argument, but Sir Hellas, you've never actually seen them live, so you don't know what you're talking about. Well, now I have seen them live. And look, I'll just say, you know, they're the best known a cappella group in the world. The stuff they've done for an a cappella group, no one thought was ever possible. They are absolutely massive. You know, they're a huge group. They are just ridiculously talented. The standard is incredible. Yeah, sure, there are moments you probably heard on the footage there, even though the quality isn't the best. In a few of the songs, especially the more demanding ones, where there is something that's a tiny bit off, maybe here or there, but that's completely expected. The one thing that really surprised me was how much choreography they were doing and how much energy there is. Any singer knows how difficult it is to sing when you're running around and moving around. I had seen videos of it before through other live performances I've reacted to, you know, fan footage, but seeing it in person, again, it's just different. It makes you feel, I don't know, tired on their behalf. They all have so much energy, especially Matt and Kevin. I don't know how they do it. And Scott as well, and Mitch, and, you know, all of them. They're just so energetic. And the energy is contagious when you watch it. And that's something, again, that doesn't really come across in the video. When you're there in the arena, everyone around you, all these fans absolutely loving it. People are singing along, dancing. Quite a few people were just stood up dancing the whole time. Really contagious atmosphere. And on that point of energy, when it first started with the Daft Punk medley, I noticed immediately that Scott was singing noticeably more in his falsetto. I was thinking, okay, he's getting older, they're on a tour, maybe his voice is a bit tired. But then a few songs in, I realized that wasn't the case. He was absolutely going for it. And when you're singing as much as they do, and you know, these are not easy arrangements, all of them are really stretched to the limits. You can just see that in terms of the ranges and everything they're doing. You do have to be tactical and efficient and careful about how much energy you expend. If you can save a few high notes and sing them in head voice rather than chest voice, especially if you just have like a backing part, then do it, because you will have a solo later on. You will have other moments like in Bohemian Rhapsody or Creep. So it was really interesting seeing which moments were kind of dialed down a little bit by each of them individually. Finally, the mixing, huge part. There are live performances I've seen by Pentatonix online that you can tell they're brushed up. They've been touched up in the studio. They're basically perfect. Live mixing, I'm not a mixer, so I don't really know much about it, but doing it live is a completely different ball game. To me, it was really obvious hearing when each of their microphones was a higher volume or lower volume based on the arrangement, I guess. Obviously, when they're doing a solo or not. There were a couple of times when I think the mixing wasn't great, like someone had a solo but their microphone was still quite low, but that was just a couple of times, and I'm just saying that to be interesting, and I just like to give my thoughts on these things. Overall, super cool. Yeah, I'm so happy that I finally got to see them live. We've spent so much time on this channel with Pentatonix, haven't we? So many videos. I don't know how many it is. Just had a quick check. I think it's about 63 or so. That's a lot of videos, a lot of time spent listening to them, exploring them, almost growing with them, digging into the arrangements, seeing how they've been able to introduce a cappella really to the mainstream. I think that's something that really is quite crazy if you just think about it. I was also wondering before we went in what the kind of demographics of the audience would be. Would it be mostly younger people, older people, mostly girls or guys? It was such an eclectic mix in there. Honestly, from the crowd, you would not have been able to tell what the concert was. You really had everyone from like every walk of life, which again, it just is a testament to how big Pentatonix are. All right, let's leave that one there. Yeah, really great experience. Very grateful to have been able to go. If you are a Pentatonix fan and you're umming and ahhing about going to see them, I think just do it, because yeah, these live concerts, they don't come across on camera, at least in fan footage. And finally, I'll just leave you with a quick video of the journey out. A lot of human traffic.